the flower essence. It sounds delicate, maybe even a little mystical. But what if these subtle remedies hold something potent? Not just for healing, but for remembering who you are. In today's episode, we step into the world of Michele Junta, herbalist, educator, and the force behind Flores de Florida. Michele works with flower essences and plant allies to support emotional balance, inner listening, and ancestral connection. Her medicine is quiet, but it's deep. From grief and motherhood to the fine line between spiritual practice and cultural appropriation, Michele invites us to rethink how we relate to healing and to the earth itself. So if you've ever felt drawn to the natural world but weren't sure how to start listening, or if you're craving a gentler, slower way to come home to yourself, this one's for you. Please hit subscribe. It's time to tune in and root down. Welcome to the Dean's List, engaging conversations at the intersection of entrepreneurship, artistic expression, and holistic health. Experience wellness in full color, where fashion, beauty, and art blend with body, mind, and soul. Embark on a journey that dresses your aspirations in style, paints your life with beauty, and sculpts your well-being in every dimension. This is the Dean's List, where inspiration is always in session. Welcome to the Dean's List, where we are cultivating the gardens of entrepreneurship, creative prowess, and blooming wellness. I'm your host, Alison Dean, and today we're digging into the enchanting world of Flores de Florida with Michele Junta, the plant essence alchemist herself. Michele has turned her passion for botanicals into a thriving business, weaving nature's magic into everyday wellness. Her flower-powered creations are a true testament to how nature can nurture us in the most vibrant ways. Join us today as we explore Michele's journey and how her plant-based potions are helping us blossom into our best selves. Welcome, Michele.
Oh my gosh, Alison, you are such a great interviewer. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. You're my first botanical goddess that I've had on the show. So I'm super stoked. I'm let's talk about all of it. You say your own business name far better than I do. Flores de Florida, but you should say it too, because I feel like they should hear how it's supposed to be said. How would you describe the business and what you do?
Well, you weren't very far off. It's Flores de Florida. I am Puerto Rican, so, and I live in Florida, so that's where the name comes from.
Yep.
So Flores de Florida is a flower essence small business. And originally I began curating flower essences from Florida because Florida loosely means the land of flowers. I got really into Bach essences. For people who aren't familiar, Dr. Edward Bach, or Bach, made flower essences about 100 years ago. But the idea of flower essences exists far back into even ancient Egyptian times. Mm-hmm. And past that, there are records talking about preparations from flower waters. So I got really interested in Bach essences. And then I was like, but what about the flowers that are here? There's so many flowers. And at that time, I was just getting into urban agriculture. I was training to be a family and community herbalist at a school in Orlando. And so I started making my own flower essences.
Okay.
And just experimented with them for a long time. And then my husband, at the time he was my boyfriend, he was like, you're really into this. You should make a little Etsy or something. And I was like, okay, So I put up my Etsy, and I had a section for Florida native plants and I think permacultural plants or something. I was kind of geared towards that, in the garden plants that you could cultivate. Mm-hmm. And then I started making flower essences from other plants, plants that we consider really powerful. I can tease that out a little bit, but I was making flower essences from plants that I didn't see other people offering.
Okay.
And there are thousands of flower essences at this point. So many that you're like, I don't know what to pick. How could I even pick one? But I felt really pulled to make these particular flower essences from master plants.
Okay.
That's kind of where I am now. I still offer all kinds of flower essences, but my main focus is the master plants.
Okay, so let's dig into that now. What are master plants?
Master plants have entered the popular culture to an
Okay.
extent. I would consider cannabis. Everybody knows cannabis. Everybody knows tobacco. Everybody
Mhm.
knows tea. Everybody
Mhm.
knows chocolate. These are
Mhm.
all master plants, plants that can cause a dramatic shift in consciousness and
Ooh,
in physical presence. And
okay.
so when they are ingested to a certain quantity, it shifts your perspective of reality in some way, shape, or form. It causes a bodily sensation, right? It causes a mental acuity, mental expansiveness.
Yeah.
Um, and so I thought, wow, these plants are so powerful. Imagine their flower essences.
Yeah.
And I have such a deep relationship with these plants because really of my husband. He has been journeying, going down to the Amazon for like 17 years now.
Wow.
And we've been together for 9 years. And so our paths came together because of these plants and
Okay.
continue to interweave us. These plants are incredibly intelligent, right? And think about even just having a simple cup of tea or coffee in the morning, how
Yep.
drastically different you feel after that.
Mhm.
And maybe someone might not even notice, but I implore you, next time you have a cup of coffee or tea, just
Feel
sit
it.
with it and feel, wow, interesting sensations arising in the body. So those are the
Mhm.
more gentle master plants, but in pop culture, we now know it's more widely known about plants such as ayahuasca, the
Uh-huh.
vine, peyote, wachuma, San Pedro,
Mhm.
brugmansia, the angel trumpet, datura, the devil's trumpet. A lot of people know about these, right, for their psychoactive or entheogenic properties. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the more widely, I guess, looked at way to talk about master plants are entheogenic plants. But
Okay.
I go so as far as to say these are plants that can radically shift your perception, and it doesn't have to necessarily be entheogenic, although a lot of them are.
Okay. So obviously the Bach influence was there, but I guess when did things kind of merge between like the Bach universe and like the Amazon and like how all that started to weave this notion of I can really create these like beautiful things that are missing? How'd that take shape?
Well, my first trip to the Amazon of Peru was in
Mhm.
2016
Oh,
or
okay.
17.
Yeah.
And it was with a partner at my partner at that time,
Mhm.
and we were so deep into the jungle that I was 8 hours away from Cusco, which is a major city in
Mhm.
Peru, and this was a little town that had was just getting internet.
Oh.
um so being there and being with people who sincerely connected with the land and connected with the plants
Mhm.
such a way that it was second nature. They didn't have to think about it. It was like if you had something wrong with your eye or you sprain a muscle or break a bone,
Right.
you just go get the plant that can fix it.
Yeah, right.
And so that was like my first taste because I had been studying herbalism for
Right.
a few years before that, and I was working in urban agriculture. But this more practical daily application of working with plants was just kind of astounding. And interestingly enough, I did not work with any master plants on that trip because it was the dry season. And the
Oh.
teacher that I was with says that, we don't really work with these purgative plants
Yeah.
during the dry season because it's energetically contraindicated.
Okay.
So I learned a lot about energetics from an Amazonian perspective
Uh-huh.
and really just being with the plants in such an intimate way, like they are relatives. They
Mhm.
are a part of us. We are
Mhm.
not separate from them. So it
Mm.
just catapulted me further into this animistic worldview that I had slowly been cultivating already. But
Yeah.
being there, I was so immersed in it.
Yeah.
So when I came home, my whole world, that was the first time I'd left the country so much. My
Mm-hmm.
whole world was spinning. And
Yeah.
I'm back in Orlando, which, if you've ever been there, it's a concrete jungle, and not in a nice way. If you're from Orlando, I'm sorry.
No, no.
I'm born and raised in Orlando. So anyone listening to Orlando, like, no shade, but Orlando's intense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so being there, I was like, whoa, there's a whole other way to be a person.
Yeah.
Being in an intimate, deep relationship with the plants.
Mm-hmm.
So I continued my studies as an herbalist, and long story short, it led me to my partner. And I can really attribute my flower essences to my husband.
Uh-huh.
And, he was the one that instigated me to, oh, you should offer these to more people because you're
Right.
studying them so much. But he is truly an ethnobotanical wizard. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Richard Evan Schultes, but he was a really prominent ethnobotanist who went to
Okay.
Harvard, and he was responsible for making the rubber industry become what it became to be, but not intentionally. Like, he did not want the destruction to happen, but he discovered rubber
Okay.
in the colonized sense of discovering rubber,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he truly had a heart of gold. Richard Evan Schultes, he has many, many books, many published works on his botanical findings. And I always say that my husband has a sliver of his spirit in him. The way that my husband has worked with these master plants and how he's able to cultivate them and go down to be with this family that he has created such a lasting relationship with. It's like family at this point, down in the Amazon. That's when I really was like, whoa, flower essences of master plants. This is pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
It really was part of the beginning of my relationship, and
Yeah.
has just continued, 9 years
Growing from
later.
there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I want to lean more into reverence for plants and how that works into your process and preparation so that people that are buying from you really understand the relationship and the quality of the product because of how you care for the plants.
Yeah. So I really love the word reverence because it's more than just respect.
Mm.
Respect to me is something that's, I don't know, maybe something that's earned, whereas reverence is something you behold. You
Mm.
behold this being in front of you, whether it's a person, an animal, a plant, a landscape, and you're just in awe. Like,
Yeah.
it's respect that comes from awe,
Mm.
And even as I say that, I have goosebumps because that's what these plants have inspired of me in me, is this state of reverence of just like,
Wow.
whoa, what is contained within this plant is so incredible. Within all plants, of course, but particularly these master plants is just, it's astounding. It's
Mm.
astounding to be in front of or work with a plant and feel those shifts within the body, but to be aware of it and
Yeah.
to feel the intelligence, right? These plants are so intelligent. Nature is intelligent.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've been to Peru many times now, but those first few times is feeling that sense of reverence that was just so natural
Mm.
to the Andean various cultures and the Amazonian cultures that I have relationships with. It's just natural. It's just, why wouldn't I give thanks to that mountain over there? It's watched over my children be born.
Right.
Why wouldn't we give thanks to the sun that shines faithfully every day? Why
Mhm.
not? So when I make a flower essence, I really try to attune into the spirit of that plant and to like really feel the intelligence, the aliveness, the vitality that is ancient. It's so old. These plants are so old. These master plants are so ancient, and there's so much tradition behind them, and
Yeah.
story and data and information contained within this little flower. Like, we've been talking about flower essences, not so much the plant physical preparations, but these flowers, so much
Yeah.
information. is
Yeah.
right there. Just even by looking at the flower, you can receive so much information. So such an important part of the process is to behold the plant, to bear witness to its intelligence, and then from there, know what I'm doing, because there's a right way and a wrong way to make a flower essence.
Let's talk about that, the right way and the wrong way, because I think it's important for people to also understand why your preparations are potentially different from other things that you could be getting, and what should people be paying attention to as it relates to the processing of this stuff.
Yeah, so flower essences are really simple. It's hard to mess them up, but you'd be surprised. So the original way that Dr. Edward Bach created his method of flower essences, which is the same one that I practice, I'll tell you the process without all the fluffy stuff. So you just get a glass bowl of clean filtered water, and you do not want to physically touch the plant or put your hands in the bowl of water or anything like that, because you want it to just be the flower.
Right.
So I do have a teacher that says, like, you can do a quick snip with your finger, but I just always use snippers. Just, I don't want my energy too much in there. So you put the bowl of water under the flower and you just snip. You want enough flowers to cover the surface of the water.
Okay.
So if you used a big bowl, like this, you're going to need a lot of flowers. So I try to think about that when I'm out, collecting flower essences. I got to plan how big my vessels have to be.
Yeah.
And then the best case scenario is if you can leave the vessel in the sun, but as close to the plant as you can, so that that strengthens the essence, or that initial bond is there. And if I have not been able to do that, I'll offer some of the same water, because there's been a case where I don't remember, but for some reason I had to move the essence from its initial location really quickly. So I shared the water that was in the vessel with the plant itself. And for me it maintained a connection.
Yeah.
But anyways, you want to leave, the best case scenario is you leave it with the plant that you harvested it from, or in the landscape that you harvested it from.
Okay.
And then so I think Dr. Edward Bach left the water infusing with the flowers for about 3 hours. Ideally on a clear, bright, sunny day with no clouds. Right. But I live in Florida and the weather changes, so clouds come and go, and the sun is so intense here. So if a little clouds come for me, it happens.
Yeah, right.
The idea is that you want that solar energy penetrating the flower's frequency into the water. And the water holds memory. This is, scientifically proven. So water is a memory keeper. And so that information that the flower is containing, is infused into the water.
Cool.
So 3 hours later, give or take. So let's say I harvested 2 cups of that water. I would match it with 2 cups of brandy. Brandy is considered a very neutral spirit, like alcohol.
Yeah.
And it provides a nice flavor, and I have always used brandy. I have used flower essences with, rum or tequila, and for some reason they just didn't feel as great for me. I don't know why.
Okay.
And anytime I've asked a teacher why brandy, I've always gotten the answer, well, this is what Dr. Edward Bach used, and it's a neutral. It's considered energetically neutral.
That's good.
That is called your mother essence.
Okay.
That's considered the mother.
Okay.
Then from that, you would put that probably in a jar, label it really nicely, because I have not labeled things correctly, and I'm like, what is this? What did I make? Because you can't taste it. There's no chemical or any physical constituents in a flower essence because of the dilution process. So if I were to taste it, I would say this kind of just tastes like watered down brandy. I don't know what this is. So label it really well. And then from there, you would make what's called a stock bottle. So I would take, different practitioners use different amounts, but you would take drops, not dropper fulls. So I can give a little demonstration. This is a dropper, a whole dropper full. This is a drop, obviously, a little drop.
Yeah.
You would take, I use usually 9 drops into a stock bottle. Would be called a stock bottle. So
Okay.
see how diluted that is
Yeah.
from basically like a tinctured flower
Yeah.
into, I do half brandy and half water again. So
Okay.
the drops of whatever that flower essence is, I put 9 drops into what would be a stock bottle.
Yeah.
Then you take however many drops. I would use 9 drops of the
Okay.
stock into what's called a dosage bottle.
Mm.
Dosage bottle is something that you're going to be dosing yourself with really frequently. And that's also
Okay.
how you can extend the life of a stock essence if you don't have so much of it. The
Okay.
idea with flower essence is similar to homeopathy,
Yeah.
is the more diluted it is, the stronger it is. I have worked with different dilutions and it still like boggles my brain.
Right.
So what
Right.
I offer stock essences so that people can make dosage bottles as they need it. So, because if you're purchasing a dosage bottle, then you would go through that
Quickly.
quickly. But if you had a stock bottle, you could use a stock bottle as your
Yeah.
dosage, which is
Okay.
what I often do,
Okay.
or you can further dilute it to the dosage strength. or
Oh.
the dosage bottle strength.
Right. I
So
haven't done that. Okay.
So, see, the dilution process is really important. And I
Hmm.
say this because I have heard of a story of somebody who made a flower essence of datura. And
Okay.
datura is it's a deliriant. It can impair you like
Oh.
significantly. Same with
God.
a lot of plants in the Solanaceae family, Brugmansia, the beautiful angel trumpet. I have a tattoo of it. Like it's a
Uh-huh.
very regal, fairy-like flower, but it is really, really dangerous. And there are definitely cultures, I know in some Amazonian traditions, Brugmansia, Toei is also called, is worked with, but super rare and under very specific guidelines and for very
Wow.
specific reasons. Like it's
Right.
considered that is a master plant because you can mess up really easily. So for example, I've heard of this horror story of somebody purchasing what they thought was a datura flower essence and it ended up being a tincture, and she took this tincture of datura and had really unpleasant side effects.
Wow.
Yeah.
What
So
kind? Do we know what were the unpleasant side effects?
I think she was vomiting, stomach
Oh.
cramping,
Oh. Oh.
just,
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
really
Right. Okay.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
She was probably just taking maybe a dropper full. So imagine, or if a child gets a hold of,
Oh no. No.
incorrectly prepared flower essence or any type of plant preparation, we have to be very careful.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
very important how the plant is prepared for that reason.
I mean, obviously, working with some of these plants and I guess the concentration of them, we must be mindful of. But is there anything else that people should be aware of when it comes to the preparations that someone else may be
Yeah.
using? Yeah.
I mean, well, something else that I have seen people do, and I worked with it a little bit, but it got to be like too tedious. A lot of
Okay.
people will make flower essences under certain astrological alignments, or when the moon
Oh.
is in a certain sign, or at a certain, fullness, or at a new moon, full moon, whatever. And I think there's a time and place for those essences. Some people will make flower essences under a full moon or outside and during the nighttime. But
Hmm.
I think there's something really powerful about solar energy
Yeah.
because the sun, there are some cultures that it's feminine, but in many cases, the sun is a very masculine, energetic, and
Yep.
water is very feminine and energetics. So
Balancing.
it balances it out. But I know other people that make wonderful essences with all kinds of interesting alignments and configurations and, with grids and things like that. But I don't want to make it too, these plants are already so powerful. I don't feel like I need to do anything else. I
Right.
want the plant to speak for themselves self,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that I want the person to feel that. So
Less is more.
less is more, I think, because that's just, and it's also true to what Dr. Edward Bach initiated. He
Mm-hmm.
actually, quick
Mm.
side note,
Yeah.
originally was collecting dew from the early morning flowers
Oh.
as his initial remedies. And then he realized this is going to take me forever. So he has
Yeah.
two preparations. One, and it depends on the plant for
Mm-hmm.
him.
Mm-hmm.
One was the solar method I mentioned, and another
Okay.
one is lightly boiling the flowers or whatever the plant material is. I don't
Oh.
work with that one.
Okay.
Dr. Bach also thought that his 38 remedies were complete, that there was no more
Oh.
that needed to be made. And he also, his library, his database of information, that's it. What we have is what we have, and he didn't want anybody to have anything else.
Huh. Huh.
So he felt like this was it. And there are a lot of people, really lovely flower essence practitioners, that stand by that. And that's their stance, that it's just the Bach flowers. We don't need any more. But
Mm.
my perspective is, wow, it's been, I don't know, 100 years, give or take. And how many more intense ailments or disharmonies exist within the human experience from
Mm-hmm.
when he was alive?
Totally. Yes.
That's how I justify making new flower essences. So yeah, there are all kinds of things that one could do to make their flower essence more potentized. But like
Mm.
I said, I think the thing that I do that might be a little different would be structuring the water.
Oh, yeah. I mean, happy water is a thing. So,
Yeah.
yes. Maybe people are kind of thinking right now, how do I use this? How should I be thinking about this? You know, I text you about this. I was like, what? How should I be doing? You know, like, I
Yeah.
got I got a nice collection.
Yeah. Flower essences really target the energetic and emotional bodies. That doesn't mean you can't have a physical experience with a flower essence. I'm just going to
Okay.
say that, but I
Mhm.
make no claims.
Okay.
You know what
Okay.
I'm saying? I
Right,
make
right,
no
right.
claims about flower essences. I'm just going to tell you what I have experienced, and I
Yeah.
have had physical relief from working with flower essences. Like how if you would take a tincture for a certain ailment,
Mhm.
you know? So
Mhm.
flower essences are designed to work like with the human soul, with the spirit, with our energy.
Yeah.
I have an anthroposophical background,
Uh-huh.
and Rudolf Steiner said that the human body is threefold or fourfold, depending on which text you read. But so you have a physical body, physical manifestation,
Mhm.
and then next is your etheric body. So your etheric body you can think of as like your life force, your chi, what moves your blood, the vital force inside of you. That's
Mhm.
where flower essences can start working, is in that
Oh.
etheric body. Then you have
Uh-huh.
your astral body, which is where our thoughts, our impulses, our desires, our feelings live. And a lot
Mhm.
of people think, oh, astral body, like space. But Rudolf Steiner's his work was translated from German to English, so there might be like, the translation might make people confused, but the astral body is like right here, you
Yeah.
know. And then you have your eye, and the eye is what connects you to, the higher celestial realms. So flower essences, to me, really start working on the etheric and the astral body, so that physical part of you can connect to the eye. That makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Okay, so then are the herbal medicines affecting more of just the physical body
Yeah,
or
yeah. And herbs, you can definitely have a spiritual experience working with herbs. I do all the time. But
okay.
an herbal preparation, a tincture, a tisane, a tea, a decoction, those are
Uh-huh.
for physical issues you're having. Your lungs are congested, you have an ear infection,
Mhm.
you have a bruise, you have sore muscles, you have
Right.
menstrual cramps. Those are all physical ailments. Whereas something like, oh, I'm storing trauma in my womb, or I have a repressed memory that I don't know how to heal, or I am really melancholic and I just can't find my groove again. Flower essences help really well with those things.
Yeah. So, okay. And then plant medicines, it's the same thing, the etheric body.
Well, so like plant medicines, like master plants, right? Is that what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you're surfing on Instagram or YouTube or something and someone references plant medicines, they're usually referencing like entheogenic plants. So that's ayahuasca, that's
Mhm.
peyote, San Pedro. These are the master plants that I make essences with. And those preparations are physical medicines. They will create a physical sensation in the body. You will physically feel altered, and then you will also mentally and emotionally feel altered. So
Okay.
I say plant medicines, they work with your physical, your etheric, your astral, and you can go up to the eye body.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
That's
And
trippy.
so intense, right? Like these master plant medicines
Yeah.
are very, very intense on the physical body
Yes.
and can do damage if somebody's not prepared correctly and can cause potentially more harm
Then good. Right.
than good. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of reasons why. And it's more so like, how is the person prepared for the experience? Are they well
Mm.
enough to physically, mentally, emotionally to have this kind of
Yeah.
experience to be able to integrate it? Or is there more work that should happen before they work with the physical master plant medicines? And
Right.
that's where I would love my flower essences to help people. People that
Right.
are really curious about working with ayahuasca, for example, but they're looking for the right place. They, have heard of bad experiences. There's a laundry list of reasons, right?
Hmm.
And so you can start communing with those plants that you feel called to by working with the flower essences, and I'll give you a really interesting example. Recently, my husband and I were at a botanical garden, and in the
Yeah.
car, I was just saying something about one of these master plants.
Right.
I took a break from working with these plants because I was a teacher and then I was pregnant and now I'm nursing a little one. And so I've had a long hiatus from
Uh-huh.
some of these relatives. And so I was telling him in the car how I was feeling, ready in some capacity. And we go to a botanical garden and he's like, oh, we need to go that way. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that one tree is over there. So we walk and he looks down and he was like, oh my gosh, do you see this? And the plant that I had just mentioned in the car was growing all around us. And I was like, oh, wow, wow. And we've been to this garden dozens of times. And the plant that I'm referencing is legal to grow in the States. So that's, I think, why we saw it here. But it was also at like a very public botanical garden. And I was just
Wow.
like, whoa, okay, plant communication.
Yeah.
So we can start communicating with these spirits because they're so powerful and ancient. And like
Yeah.
plants occupy, I think, a frequency that can be accessible at any point.
Yeah.
Like meditating on a certain plant or looking at its flower, like in a photograph, you can really start to connect with that plant because it's a plant. It's rooted in the ground. I feel
Yeah.
like through the mycelial network, I don't know, somehow the spirit of the plant can come to you quickly. And
Yeah.
so when you work with a flower essence, I feel like it can help that process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So if someone is like brand new to flower essences, right? Like someone like, I mean, even though I've purchased box stuff before,
Mhm.
I can't say that I knew what I was doing really, Like I think
Well, the good thing is flower essences are really safe. Like
right.
even if you drank a whole bottle of a Bach essence or of a Flores de Florida essence, you might feel a little buzz from the brandy.
Okay.
But I always say if you are not tuned in, if you are
Mm.
not available to
Mm.
feel, you might take Datura flower essence, which is a
Yeah.
very strong plant, very strong spirit. But you might
Yeah.
take a whole bottle of a properly made flower essence. And if you're not in a space to receive
Mhm.
that spirit, you might not feel anything. If you're
Right.
blocked somewhere, you might not feel anything. I've had that happen to me. This happened to one of my male friends. super resistant. He thinks it was a bunch of gobbledygook new age stuff. And I said, okay, I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
So I had him do a meditation to kind of just disarm himself.
Uh-huh.
And then I gave him the flower essence and he was like, whoa, I actually could feel something. And I said, yeah, because we have all these layers in front of us, right? Whether it's your hesitation or your disbelief or to-do lists or 10,000 things that we have to think about in a day, that can congest your lens of perception, right? So if you're not in a space to receive something so subtle, you might miss it. You might totally miss it. So I always tell people who are new, whether it's working with my essences or anybody else's, give the essence your awareness, because you're inviting the spirit of the plant to take up residency within your body,
right,
and commune with you, right? You're learning each other. You're welcoming in a frequency to your body. It's just like when you take in food, you know, that we don't think so like reverently or specifically most of the time about food like that, but it alters you. And if you're paying attention, you will feel it. So same with the flower essence. If you're aware, then you'll start to feel subtle shifts. And the more you give it your attention, I tell people, give yourself a 10-minute meditation. Just be still, stare at the sky, like try to clear your mind enough so that you can discern, what you might be feeling.
Is it attention and intention also? Like you spoke a little bit about maybe there's some traumas that you're trying to heal. How much do you need to like hone in on what you're hoping that essence is going to help with?
I don't think it's so much about your intention. Each flower essence will have an indication, what it will be helpful with supporting. And then imbalances. So you'll see with a lot of descriptions of flower essences, how an imbalance might manifest in a person for them to need that particular flower essence.
To balance.
So for example, someone who is really melancholic, they're really sad. They're kind of like Eeyore, they don't really see, like everything's kind of just like blah, whatever. I would suggest sunflower, because sunflower essence is like the essence of happiness, of finding your joy, like super positive, super beneficial. So somebody who needs sunflower essence might show themselves as very melancholic, very sad, very gloomy, right? So that's like the imbalance that would show. And then the positive thing that you would receive is a brightened mood. Maybe you're looking up more, because sunflowers are heliotropic, they follow the sun.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I know.
And so these people, instead of like kind of having their heads down all the time, they might start to be aware more, notice more. Right. They might feel more happy, more warm. So flower essences have you'll usually see an imbalance indication and then positive attribute.
That's cool. So I kind of feel like people that are new to them could also be bundled on some level with people that are skeptical of them. Any other stories of like skeptics where they kind of didn't believe it, but then you saw or you heard about a shift?
Yeah, I was the biggest skeptic. I'm a total Capricorn, super hard-headed, so stubborn. And I like proof. I like to research, and then I like anecdotal evidence. I like to experience something, and then I can verify, this is real. And even if it's something totally out there, if it happened to me, and I can say that checks out, then for me, it checks out.
Right.
So when I was studying herbalism in Orlando, I was really close with my teacher, and I was going through something at the time. Can't quite remember what it was, but on the surface, I was really happy. Oh, hi, Michelle. Hi, I'm doing so good. Everything's just great. Everything's fine. But underneath, I was crumbling. I was really, really going through it. And
Okay.
so I was telling this to my teacher, who is a certified flower essence practitioner with the Flower Essence Society.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling her, and she's like, why don't you take agrimony? And I was like, okay, whatever. Because she had
Uh-huh.
explained flower essences in class. We worked with them. We had to do case studies on them. And I was just like, oh, whatever. And when I worked with agrimony, agrimony is specifically indicated for people who are happy on the surface and underneath they are suffering. Exactly my indication.
Okay.
So I started working with this flower essence. I really wasn't giving it attention. I was just like, okay, let me take this flower essence. I wasn't necessarily sitting intentionally with it, but
Right.
I was giving it presence throughout the day. I would take a couple drops in the morning, afternoon, midday, and then at night before bed.
Okay.
And I slowly started to kind of like that veneer that I had was starting to crack, and in a way that was actually really healthy. I went from being inauthentic in my expression to saying, you know what, I'm going through a hard time. I'm really not doing so good. And she was
Right.
like, agrimony. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh my gosh, you're so right. And then she showed me, one of her textbooks that had this long description of agrimony. And I was like, whoa, okay. That's really cool. And I'm telling y'all, I was really skeptical. I was like, there's no way. This is so diluted. This sounds like a bunch of new age nonsense. And then when I learned, how intentional Dr. Edward Bach was when he was thinking through his whole system. And
Mm-hmm.
then even, I mentioned at the beginning, like the Egyptian flower waters, and even back ancestrally, we have always put flowers in water as
Mm-hmm.
an offering,
Uh-huh.
as a
Uh-huh.
cleansing, as a healing.
Yeah.
Flowers and water just work well together.
Yeah.
So I really thought about that. And once I had that experience, that's when I was like, oh, let me make some of my local plants. And that's, where it really started. So I was the biggest skeptic.
After agrimony, what happened after that? What was the next essence for you?
Hmm. I don't know. This was a long time ago. It was like 10 years ago. But I definitely worked a lot with the chestnuts. My now husband, but when we first got together, he was going down to Peru, and like we weren't talking for weeks at a time because he was, in this isolation
Yeah.
dieta container. And I
Mm-hmm.
had no idea what was happening. I was so young, and I was probably unhealthily attached to him and like not knowing what was going on. And I was just reeling. So I started working with the chestnuts, the white chestnut and red chestnut. And one of them was specifically, I think it's white chestnut, is really helpful for compulsive worrying thoughts.
Oh,
And it helped so much, so
wow.
much. And then there was another time, my
Yeah.
husband, well, he was my partner at the time. Early on, he left, and I was feeling all types of insecure and like, oh my gosh, he's gone. And I
Uh-huh.
worked with saguaro. Saguaro is that big, ginormous desert
Okay.
cactus.
Yeah.
And I worked with that flower essence, and I sincerely felt my own beautiful masculine energy just hug me and say, you're okay. I got you. Like, it's
Uh-huh.
okay. Like,
Uh-huh.
toughen up and you're okay. You're not losing yourself and you're not losing him. Relax.
Right.
It's just incredible to feel such visceral experiences from something so subtle as a flower
Yeah.
essence. It's
Yeah.
something you have to experience to really say, whoa, these things work.
Okay, so obviously like stress is someone that afflicts a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Burnout. Maybe we can like talk through some of these obvious things that can, afflict people and tell them maybe you want to embark on this flower essence or this one just so people can paint a picture of like how many things can really be helped potentially
Mm-hmm.
by incorporating this into their regimen.
I'll speak to the flower essences that I have just because I have so
Yes.
much experience with them.
Yeah.
So something as simple as stress, my whole thing, because I'm also an herbalist,
Yeah.
so I want to get to the root of why someone is stressed out, and you have to address that root. Everything
Mhm.
has a root, and it
Uh-huh.
will manifest physically as your stress. But
Mm-hmm.
something is causing you disharmony. Something is causing you an imbalance that's making you feel angry, tired, frustrated, rushed.
Yep.
So it totally depends on what is manifesting for the person. So
Okay.
if let's say you're stressed and you just feel forgetful, out of balance, you walk into a room and you're kind of like, what was I coming to get?
Yeah.
Kind of spacey, just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I would recommend the Wachuma flower essence or the San Pedro flower essence. So this is another cactus
Uh-huh.
flower
Uh-huh.
that comes to us from the Andes, specifically Peru, Ecuador,
Uh-huh.
Colombia even. And it is such an amazing essence to promote harmony back in the body.
Oh.
It brings all the energy that sometimes I see it as somebody with like an octopus with many tentacles,
Yeah.
and your energy's dispersed. You
Mm-hmm.
like stressed out at work, stressed out at home. You almost got smashed on the highway. You left your
Ooh.
credit card at the gas station.
Yeah.
All kinds of things. You forgot to check your P.O. box, all whatever.
Yes.
Their energy's scattered.
Right.
The Wachuma flower essence brings harmony. It calls your energy back to you so that you can be strong. Like a
Mm.
pillar of light. That's what the cactuses or cacti are really beautiful for. It feels like you have a column of light just centered within your body. And
Sounds good.
stress might happen, but you'll be better able to adapt to
Navigate
it.
it. Yes, yes,
And of
yes.
course, I mean, my herbalist brain, it's like I want to say herbs that can better help you manage stress. But sometimes all you need is a flower essence. I
Yeah.
know an herbalist, I think it's Matthew Wood.
Okay.
He works with drop dosage of flower essences.
Okay.
So he'll say, take one drop, one little boop.
Oh.
Matthew Wood for flower essences is a really amazing study.
Okay.
He speaks to flower essences really beautifully in his books, though,
Okay.
because the idea is like flower essences are meant to help us get back to our innate ability to perceive the subtle. We have this capacity all the time, but we're so bombarded by other things, like I was saying. Our
Yeah.
lens of perception, there's just a million things in front of the flower essence that, like, you can't really see.
Yeah.
We're meant to feel those things sometimes,
Uh-huh.
because if we did all the time, it would be like everybody would be an empath and it would be very chaotic because everybody would feel everything all the time. And
Right.
that's not necessarily the goal, but flower essences help to promote, like you said, harmony,
Yeah.
help us be whole again, because we're
Right.
so fragmented all the time.
Yes.
So
Yes.
flower essences, they have this ability to, yeah, like with the Wachuma essence, I'm just like really feeling into this frequency of harmony within the body, because we're so out of whack.
So you think all people should just be taking that one these days?
Not necessarily, because there's other things that people have going on. So stress is one thing, anxiety, like people who worry a
Mm-hmm.
lot, or people who
Mm-hmm.
are really stuck in their head. I can speak to this one because I am guilty of this. So if you're a person who ruminates on things,
Uh-huh.
think over and over about the situation, or you're just in your head a lot, hard-headed, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would totally recommend the Ayauma flower essence. Ayauma is
Ayuma.
a gorgeous tree. I just posted it on my Instagram because I saw this tree today.
Okay.
This is my most requested flower essence is Ayauma. It's a
Oh.
gorgeous tree.
Uh-huh.
And it has these crazy flowers, and it is considered a master plant because it's used in the context of an Amazonian diet or dieta. So the tradition
Okay.
that my husband works with, where
Yep.
you're in isolation and you're working with the master plants, but you're working with other plants to heal very specific physical ailments or even mental ailments. So
Right.
Ayauma in the Amazon, I make no claims, I'm not a doctor, has been used to treat addiction,
Oh.
alcoholism,
Okay.
liver issues, skin issues. So as a flower essence, there's this thread, this ripple, right, from the physical medicine that helps with addiction.
Yes.
There's a really powerful ripple that comes through with the flower essence to help you get out of your mind chatter, the incessant, the
Yeah.
monkey in
Yeah.
the mind.
Yeah.
Kind of helps you to calm that down. Like it
Okay.
helps you break out of your limited thinking.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Mm,
that's one that
mm.
I work with
A
kind of
lot.
regularly.
Of the essences that you have in your shop right now, maybe you can talk a little bit about what right now is in the shop and what sort of things could those things help with?
So in my shop, I struggled with this for a while because I know that when you look at flower essences, it can feel overwhelming. You're like,
Mm-hmm,
I don't know
hmm.
which one to pick.
Uh-huh.
So I sat with each essence and it took me like a month. And I
Yes.
sat with each essence until I felt that one word came through and like really shined and said,
This
this
is the word.
is
Yeah, yeah.
this is the thing.
Yeah.
And that happened with all of them. I could really feel one word that just summarized what this flower essence really helped
With.
support with.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when anyone like looks at the listings, I have a really close up picture of the flower so that you can look at the flowers because sometimes you
To
just
see.
feel called to one.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
Sometimes you're just like, that one's really interesting.
Uh-huh.
And that's happened to me so many times where I look at the flower, I bless, like, I gotta meet this flower essence. And then I look at the description and it's like, whoa, I'm going through this.
Right.
So, like I was saying, you can start communing with these plant spirits before you even, have the flower essence at
Right.
times.
Right.
So I have a close up picture of the flowers so people can try that. Or you can look at those one words because they
Mm,
do summarize everything, but then the description, I really try to make the descriptions like give a little history about the plant, a little bit of, botanical information just because that's what I like, acknowledge the cultures in which they come from,
right.
and then I give us a description of the flower essence. I've seen a lot of flower essence offerings where they're like 2 sentences, if that, 1 or 2 sentences, and I'm like, oh, and sometimes that's all you need. Like I'm saying, I use the one word to really hit the
Right.
point.
Yeah.
But the one I have had to remake several times is the Ayauma. And I think the word that I put on Ayauma is expand. It helps you expand past your limited mental constructs. It's also helpful, I notice, for people who have like OCD like tendencies or like
Tendencies.
rumination
Uh-huh.
tendencies.
Yeah, right.
It
Right.
helps you to like expand beyond the confines that we put in our own minds.
Right.
That sense.
Okay, what about cacao?
Oh, yeah, I love cacao as a tree, as a fruit, the flower essence. I just love this plant. I saw cacao today and I was like, oh, just such a beautiful spirit, so loving, so maternal.
Yes.
Cacao is an amazing flower essence for moms. This
Uh-huh.
is one I lean on very often because
Okay.
it reminds us to nourish ourselves. Where in your life do you need to tend? Where do you need
Ah,
nourishment? Even as basic as, are you drinking enough water? Are you eating enough? Are you
right.
doing those self-care practices that just make you feel nice? And as a
Yes.
new mom, my daughter's 13 months old, I get really, you're a mom too. You get caught up in the like, I'm a mom and I love it. And I'm also my own person too.
Yes.
So I'm going through that right now. And cacao is just so helpful for reminding us to like, hey, you're you. Like, take care of yourself. Right. Because if
Yeah.
you're not good, in our case, our children are not good.
Right.
Our household would not be good.
No, that's yes, amen to that. That sounds like all the moms out there, especially, good to have some cacao flower essence on hand
Yeah.
in
And
the medicine
sometimes you
cabinet.
can't prepare, like I would say just to drink cacao, right? Cacao is so
Right, right.
beautiful and lovely.
Yeah.
Even just having a really clean, lovely bar of chocolate is great. But sometimes, like to make a really nice cup of really quality cacao for me, by the time I get to it, it's nighttime and cacao can sometimes be very stimulating. And when I want the cacao, I'm too tired so the
Mhm.
flower essence, I get that spirit of the cacao in me.
Right.
through the
Right.
flower essence, and I don't need to be super stimulated or, you know, engaged in a particular frequency by drinking it. I can just take the flower essence.
I feel like you just sold it even more just now, Michelle, that we should all have the cacao on hand. I think my last one that I bought from you was butterfly
Oh, the
pea flower.
butterfly pea. Oh,
Yeah. So,
so
and I have the tea because I feel like it's pretty because it turns
it's
your
so
stuff's
pretty.
colors,
Yeah.
right? So we all love that one. But I think as a flower essence, maybe you can speak to also what that might do for people if they were to have it on hand.
Yeah, so oh my gosh, that flower is so beautiful. The genus is Clitoria. That might tell you something. It's a beautiful flower that in Ayurveda is used for the mind. It's actually used as
Oh.
I believe an herb for like depressive tendencies, but as a flower essence. So when we're researching,
Hmm.
coming up with what does this flower essence do? We look at the what's called the doctrine of signature.
Okay.
And this is how does the plant look? What does the plant look like?
Hmm.
And how does it present itself? How does it manifest in the world? How does it grow? What type of soil does it grow in? What is its tendency? That
Yeah.
tells you a lot about what the flower essence might help with. So if you look at Clitoria, it looks like female anatomy. It's really beautiful.
Okay.
And it's an amazing flower essence for reclaiming your femininity. That would even be a good one for mothers, you know, after giving birth. I have felt so like frumpy and like, you know, I want to be in sweatpants all the time. My hair is never done. It helps you try and kind of just like reorient yourself back to this like
Feminine.
feminine force
I like that.
that we have as women. Helps you like reclaim that sense of femininity.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Like maybe what's one of the more rare ones where it was like on the site it was like rare. Like
Right. I don't know that I have that. Did you get the Hija del Sol?
yes, that was one. Yeah, okay, so
Yeah.
maybe talk about that one.
Yeah, this is my favorite. Can't pick favorites with your family members, but Hija del Sol is Mama Coca. This is the Amazonian Andean bush that comes to us from South America.
Uh-huh.
And it has been demonized for way too long. And I just will put in a plug for Wade Davis, who was a student of Richard Evan Schultes, who just put out an article on Rolling Stone. I have it actually listed. I have it right here. Let me just read the title. It says, this fall, a global regulatory body could move to decriminalize the demonized plant for the first time in more than 60 years, giving everyone access to sacred medicinal leaves with proven health benefits.
Yeah,
So
well, yes, yes.
yeah, this I have goosebumps when I talk about this plant, and like I could even cry for how this plant has truly shaped me as a human being. And
Wow.
it's also an ancestral plant for me.
Yep.
There are many different types of erythroxylum, but the one that I'm specifically speaking to is of Peruvian descent.
Uh-huh.
And this plant built an empire. You know, the Incan civilization would not have been what it was without the chewing of these leaves.
Uh-huh.
So just because we've been able to synthesize one alkaloid from it,
Yep.
and the article that I will tell everyone to read on Rolling Stone, it
Yeah.
will tell you everything you want to and know about the plant and what you didn't know you wanted to know about the plant and just how powerful and how truly, I don't use the word sacred lightly. This plant is so sacred,
Okay.
so precious to this planet. If there is one plant that I could fight for the rest of my life, it would be this plant.
Wow.
And so, of course, I had to, when I was down south, make a flower essence.
Yes.
And what an amazing flower essence for endurance. I think that's the word I put for it on the site.
Yeah.
It helps cultivate a sense of sure-footedness. If you've ever been down to Peru and you have altitude sickness, you're given usually coca leaf tea. But the
Oh.
real thing that you want to do is chew the leaves. You want to chew the leaves with a little bit of what's called yipta, or it's like plant ash. And that
Oh.
ash activates that slight numbing quality that you'll feel with the leaves.
Uh-huh.
The plant itself helps people with endurance. So when you have altitude sickness or soroche, or
Yeah.
you have that like horrible headache that happens with altitude sickness, and people want to go to Machu Picchu and do the big hike and things like that, this plant can really help regulate the body, help the lungs take in more oxygen. It gives you endurance to do the hike. It suppresses hunger. It suppresses the need for thirst. It gives you very gentle, stimulating energy. Nothing even like coffee. Like coffee makes you feel like, woo! But the leaf makes you really feel just like a stable, consistent energy.
Cool.
So as that flower essence helps you to feel this sense of endurance of like, I'm on my path and I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, maybe someone is taking a leap of faith and changing jobs.
Right.
Or maybe they're like, you know what, I really want to travel. I want to travel and I want to trust this instinct that I feel to go to this place.
Yeah.
Maybe this flower essence would be awesome. This is another one that I work with so often as a mom for just like during the day. Sometimes I just feel like, how can I get past nap time? I don't know how I can do it. And the Hija del Sol is really helpful for, it's like this sense of confidence. Like, I can do this. I got this. I know what I'm doing, you know? So I just feel like that's such a beautiful feeling to feel. I want everybody to feel that way.
Yeah. Right. Well, it sounds like that one could be for moms and dads.
It's for anyone.
Yeah. Right. I'm like that could be for both of them. Is there any others that should be in like the mom's apothecary?
Well, one that's coming up that I have in the shop that's not necessary. I mean, it's a master plant in India. It's Tulsi. Tulsi is a type of basil that is in India planted in front of temples and used for offerings. Tulsi is an amazing adaptogenic herb, and it helps the body physically adapt to like daily stresses in life. But as a flower essence, it's like comfort. You know what? I told my friend once, it's like a hug from Amma. If you're familiar with Amma, that hugging scene. Tulsi is just like, I feel like it would work really well with cacao.
Okay.
It's like an embrace, like a motherly embrace to just help you feel whole.
Yeah. Okay, I love that. We know that if we buy from you, we're getting things that are curated with a lot of intention and appreciation and all these lovely things. If someone is buying flower essences from someone else, how can they be sure they're purchasing from someone that's doing things ethically, responsibly, respectfully?
I would say to just feel into it, you know, feel it, because these are subtle, vibrational, energetic medicines. Like you can feel. I've ordered essences before that I was like, I can't take this. I don't want to take this. And to read. I like to read people's websites, read the descriptions. Do you like how they're speaking about it? Do you like how they're presenting it? What are the reviews that the person has?
Yes.
How does the maker share about the essence? Because while it's not about us as the maker, at the same time, you want to make sure that the person making any preparation is competent and they know what they're talking about and they know about the plants. Because I have found flower essences, for example, I found someone making all these different passion flower essences.
Okay.
And they just named white passion flower, purple passion flower. But I'm like, well, what's the species? I want to know. I want to know because there are different requirements for different plants.
Right.
And I don't know, for me, I didn't prefer that. So when scouting for any type of product, you want to just really look into the person. Yeah, how do they talk about their work?
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I think I first really started to gravitate towards all of your stuff is, I mean, even on Instagram, the level of sharing that you do in your stories and, you know, all the photos of the flowers. I mean, you can't help to kind of be in awe with you because you're like, even though you're not seeing the flower next to you, you're like, but yeah, that's a cool flower. Okay. So we're going to do a quick fire. You're going to basically answer first thing that comes to mind. It should just be fun. You'll have fun with it. Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. Favorite color?
Green.
What was the first paying job you ever had?
I worked in a child development center of a YMCA.
Wow. Okay. Favorite music genre?
Anything folk.
Cool. Favorite flower?
Brugmansia. Oh my God.
Okay. I feel like I got that essence too, maybe.
It's a good one.
Okay. What's the one app you can't live without?
I have an app called Navamsha. It is a Vedic astrology app, and it tells you certain times of the day to do certain things based on your Vedic, like sidereal astrological
That's
chart.
cool.
It's a good one.
Okay, we're gonna have to link to that app. That sounds cool. What's the one word that you would use to describe your business journey?
Maybe endurance.
Endurance. Okay. Who inspires you?
Oh, my husband.
I'm like beside your husband.
Yeah, besides my husband, I would totally say my daughter.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I should say besides immediate family, who
Who
inspires you?
inspires me?
Yeah.
I could say Wade Davis, the ethnobotanist that I mentioned.
Okay. Would tag him. If you could have any entrepreneur as a mentor for a day, who would it be?
Oh my, I have no idea.
Maybe Wade Davis.
That would be so cool.
Go with that then. What's a book that has significantly influenced your mindset?
I could tell you a recent one. It's called The Language of Plants, and it's about the doctrine of signature
Uh-huh.
by Yulia Graves. It's just a recent book that has really helped solidify how I interact with plants when I'm researching their flower essences.
Amazing. Okay, cool. If you could instantly acquire one new skill, what would it be?
To fly.
That's a good one. It's a popular one. If you could time travel to any period in history, which era would you visit?
My husband and I were talking about this, the era where, for example, Richard Evans Schultes like pioneered through the Amazon and was able to meet these people, but he approached them as you should a person. He didn't like novelize them because they're indigenous people in the jungle.
Right.
He learned their languages, he visited them for decades. Like, that was at a time where there was no tourism into the Amazon. There was not so much, there was no development
Right.
in terms of like colonial ways. So I would say, like, I don't know, the botanical era when we were just learning about these wild plants from remote areas of the world.
I love that.
But I would do it in a good way.
Yeah, right. Okay, and if you weren't doing what you're doing, what else might you be doing?
I would probably, so I'm not doing what it sounds like I said that I was doing. I would love to be like an ethnobotanical explorer. And my husband does this, so I wish that I was doing it. Where you just take trips into these remote places and learn from the plants, learn from the people, and study herbalism that way.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, schooling is great, but like the school of life, the school of the
Of
jungle,
the doing. Yeah.
or whatever the ecosystem is, you know,
Yeah.
real hands in the dirt.
That'll happen. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this is, you guys will be the power duo doing it. So yeah, that's, yeah, totally in the cards. I want to know Brugmansia, what can people use that for?
So Brugmansia, Toei, the word that I gave it is visionary. It helps to access the deep unconscious desires, you could say desires, or even memories, or just like the things that are really deep within you that you need help to envision. I think it's a really great one for creatives, but a lot of people work with it for like deeper stuff.
Right. Yeah, that one sounds like a good one to have also in the apothecary. Okay, where do you see your business in the next 5 years?
I'm a one-woman show. I would love to put my flower essences in people's shops.
Yeah.
And I would love to do more workshops. I've done workshops throughout the years, but I would love to do some kind of workshop with flower essences with these master plant essences.
I have some ideas. Okay, what does wellness mean to you?
Oh, wellness to me would probably be harmony with body, speech, mind, the subtle bodies that I mentioned, like the physical, etheric, astral, eye, you know, harmony.
Yes.
Wellness is harmony, I think.
Wellness is harmony. This is a hard question when you're a mom, but what are your daily non-negotiables that you really strive for related to your own wellness?
Oh. Well, I think a weekly one I could say is the gym. It's
Okay.
been like totally helping me just recalibrate, recenter, get my strength back.
Yep.
But something like as simple as really taking a long hot shower.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I
And like,
recall those days. Yes.
even if I hear daddy is having a hard time with baby, I still just try to say, you know what? Take this hot
Yeah, yeah,
shower.
yeah.
Let the water cleanse you so that you can. So definitely that, getting 3 solid meals,
Yes.
eating the protein that I need as a nursing mom.
Mm-hmm.
Hydration is a really hard one for me. Don't know why. That's just how I am. So that's a non-negotiable that I have to have,
Yes, you do.
so much water.
Yes.
I mean, those are like really basic things, but
Yep.
real life.
Yeah, those are yours. Now, what about coffee in the morning?
Yeah, I have coffee in the morning for sure. I usually never finish it. I've never felt an issue with it. I do really also love really good tea, but if I had them both in front of me, I might steer towards
Right,
coffee.
right, 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 right. I
I
understand.
love them both very
Yeah,
dearly,
right.
though.
Okay, and what advice would you give to another entrepreneur?
To be stubborn. If it's really something that you believe in,
Yes.
because there's been so many times where I'm just like, nobody cares about my flower essences, nobody's reading these things. Like, I've had people order a flower essence thinking they were getting a plant. And I'm like,
Wow.
you're not reading. Nobody reads my descriptions.
I do.
Nobody, so there have been like little setbacks, or someone leaves a review because they didn't read the description, or they thought they were getting, I don't know how,
Yeah.
something else.
Uh-huh.
It feels discouraging. Or I'm like, oh, I didn't get any likes on this post that I worked so hard on. But my husband helps me to like send her. He's like, the right people will find these flower
Uh-huh.
essences. So for me, I've had to just be like stubborn, like no, I believe in this, and I know these flower essences are helpful for people, and I want the right people to find them. So I don't know, maybe stubborn isn't the word, but be just like persistent
With what you
with
believe.
what your whatever that offering is that feels like this is my niche, this is something I
Yes.
I have been called to fulfill.
Uh-huh.
Just do it, and the right people will find you, because it's all about resonance, it's all about
I
frequency.
love that so much. Is there anything that I did not ask you that you were hoping we would talk about?
Oh my gosh. Oh, something that I could mention is
Yeah.
working with multiple essences at the same time.
Oh, yes, let's please yes, mention a little bit about this. Okay.
Because I have people ask me this actually really often. They'll message me like, "Oh, I want to work with all of these. Can I just make a blend?" And you could.
Okay.
You could.
Mhm.
But flower essences really work well when we can really focus on what is the intention behind this flower essence. So
Right.
like I said,
Focus.
the Wachuma San Pedro is really for harmony.
Yes.
So focus on that harmony. Help yourself cultivate that without, you know what it's like when you invite all your friends over for a meal.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking at the same time, and you're like, oh, who said that? Oh, that was a good idea, but
Right.
who? Too many people.
Right.
So, like when you are first working with flower essences, I like to get to know them individually
Mhm.
until I feel like, oh, I really have a good feeling for this flower essence, or I feel complete.
Right.
I feel like it has completed the task.
Yes.
I feel now more harmony. Let me sit with it, and then I'll explore this next thing that's really pressing, at me.
Yeah.
Especially when you're new to flower essences, do singles.
Yeah.
Do singles. Or every once in a while, I'll put out like a seasonal elixir.
Oh.
So it'll be multiple flower essences, usually with honey or some sort of herbal glycerite.
Yeah.
And it's like a sweet, yummy, experience.
Yeah.
But that in and of itself will be for something. Even though the individual flower essences are indicated for something, they work together as one thing.
Okay.
So I would say don't blend essences on your own initially.
Mhm. Right.
Like, for example, Edward Bach made Rescue Remedy.
Right.
So it's, I think, five or seven
Uh-huh.
flower essences that are specifically for acute trauma.
Right.
That would be a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't go to my apothecary and get each individual one because all together they do something specific.
Right.
Separated, they do their own separate thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So initially, get to know flower essences, tackle one thing at a time. But if there's an elixir or a blend that calls to you, make sure that the blend calls to you.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
That's a good tip. I think that's a good tip. That's a good tip. Less is more at the beginning. I think that's also a good tip. Can you share all the ways people can find you and purchase their flower essences?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram, Flores de Florida, and it's Flores de Florida. And on Etsy, I'm under the same name.
Yeah.
And I'm just still on Etsy because Etsy's been good to me, and Etsy is really great for small businesses for some things, and for other things it can be a little bit of a
Does your website take you to Etsy?
Well, so I have a website, but it's not, I don't put as much into it as I do the Etsy. Everything is there.
Okay.
So for small crafters, I really think Etsy is a really nice platform.
Okay. So
at least at this point.
Yeah. And then you're not on TikTok.
No, but people keep telling me to be. And
I don't know. Hey, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. Michele, thank you. This was so enlightening. I'm ready to go into, where all my flower essences are. I'm like, which one right now? Which one? I really do have to start doing it, right? I've been staring at them, but I haven't been really, anyway. So thank you for being on the Dean's List.
Aw, thank you, Alison. I've had such a lovely time chatting with you. And thanks to everyone for listening.
Yeah. And thank you all for tuning into this episode of the Dean's List. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform to stay updated, and follow us on Instagram at official_Dean's List and YouTube at It's Official Dean's List. I'm your host, Alison Dean. Until next time.